Seeing the man in black, one of the men cried that was the black thief, and presenting his piece, fired at the man. At which I let him fall, and crept into a little dark corner myself that was at the entrance of the place. When they saw the man fall, they ran all into the vault, and never stopped until they were at the end of it, for fear, as I thought, that there might be some others along with him that was killed. But while they were busy inspecting the corpse and the vault to see what they would miss, I slipped out, and once away and still away, but they never had the black thief in their power since."
"Well, my brave fellow," says the Knight of the Glen, "I see you have come through many dangers. You have freed these two princes by your stories, but I am sorry myself that this young prince has to suffer for all. Now, if you could tell me something as wonderful as you have told already, I would pardon him likewise. I pity this youth, and do not want to put him to death if I could help it."
"That happens well," says the Thief of Sloan, "for I like him best myself, and have reserved the most curious passage for the last on his account."
"Well, then," says the knight, "let us hear it."
"I was one day on my travels," says the black thief, "and I came into a large forest, where I wandered a long time, and could not get out of it. At length I came to a large castle, and fatigue obliged me to call in the same, where I found a young woman and a child sitting on her knee, and she was crying. I asked her what made her cry, and where the lord of the castle was, for I wondered greatly that I saw no stir of servants or any person about the place.
"It is well for you,"
says the young woman,
"that the lord of this castle is not at home at present, for he is a monstrous giant with but one eye on his forehead, who lives on human flesh. He brought me this child," says she. "I do not know where he got it, and ordered me to make it into a pie, and I cannot help crying at the command."
I told her that if she knew of any place convenient that I could leave the child safely, I would do it, rather than it should be killed by such a monster. She told me of a house a distance off, where I would get a woman who would take care of it.
"But what will I do in regard of the pie?"
"Cut a finger off it," said I, "and I will bring you in a young wild pig out of the forest, which you may dress as if it was the child, and put the finger in a certain place, that if the giant doubts anything about it, you may know where to turn it over at the first, and when he sees it, he will be fully satisfied that the pie is made of the child." She agreed to the scheme I proposed, and cutting off the child's finger by her direction, I soon had it at the house she told me of, and brought her the little pig in the place of it. She then made ready the pie, and after eating and drinking heartily myself, I was just taking my leave of the young woman when we observed the giant coming through the castle gates.
"Bless me,"
said she,
"what will you do now?" "Run away and lie down among the dead bodies that he has in the room,"
showing me the place,
"and strip off your clothes, that he may not know you from the rest if he has occasion to go that way."
I took her advice, and laid myself down among the rest, as if dead, to see how he would behave. The first thing I heard was him calling for his pie. When she set it down before him, he swore it smelled like swine's flesh, but knowing where to find the finger, she immediately turned it up, which fairly convinced him of the contrary. The pie only served to sharpen his appetite, and I heard him sharpening his knife and saying he must have a collop or two, for he was not near satisfied. But what was my terror when I heard the giant groping among the bodies, and fancying myself, cut the half of my hip off, and took it with him to be roasted. You may be certain I was in a great pain, but the fear of being killed prevented me from making any complaint. However, when he had eaten all, he began to drink hot liquors in great abundance, so that in a short time he could not hold up his head, but threw himself on a large creel he had made for the purpose, and fell fast asleep. When I heard him snoring, as I went up and caused the woman to bind my wound with her handkerchief, and taking the giant's spit, reddened it in the fire, and ran it through the eye, but was not able to kill him. However, I left the spit sticking in his head, and took to my heels, but I soon found he was in pursuit of me, although blind. And having an enchanted ring, he threw it at me, and it fell on my big toe and remained fastened to it. The giant then called to the ring where it was, and to my great surprise it made him answer on my foot, and he, guided by the same, made a leap at me, which I had the good luck to observe, and fortunately escaped the danger. However, I found running was of no use in saving me, as long as I had the ring on my foot. So I took my sword and cut off the toe it was fastened on, and threw both into a large fish pond that was convenient. The giant called again to the ring, but by the power of enchantment always made him answer. But he, not knowing what I had done, imagined it was still on some part of me, and made a violent leap to seize me, when he went into the pond over head and ears and was drowned. Now, Sir Knight,
says the Thief of Sloan,
you see what dangers I came through and always escaped. But indeed I am lame for the want of my toe ever since.
My lord and master,
says an old woman that was listening all the time,
that story is but too true, as I well know, for I am the very woman that was in the giant's castle, and you, my lord, the child that I was to make into a pie, and this is the very man that saved your life, which you may know by the want of your finger that was taken off, as you have heard, to deceive the giant.
The Knight of the Glen, greatly surprised at what he had heard the old woman tell, and knowing he wanted his finger from his childhood, began to understand that the story was true enough. "And is this my deliverer?" says he. "O brave fellow, I not only pardon you all, but will keep you with myself while you live, where you shall feast like princes, and have every attendance that I have myself." They all returned thanks on their knees, and the Black Thief told him the reason they attempted to steal the Steed of Bells, and the necessity they were under in going home. "Well," says the Knight of the Glen, "if that's the case I bestow you my steed rather than this brave fellow should die. So you may go when you please, only remember to call and see me betimes, that we may know each other well." They promised they would, and with great joy they set off for the King their father's palace, and the Black Thief along with them. The wicked Queen was standing all this time on the tower, and hearing the bells ringing at a great distance off, knew very well it was the princes coming home, and the steed with them, and through spite and vexation precipitated herself from the tower and was shattered to pieces. The three princes lived happy and well during their father's reign, and always keeping the Black Thief along with them, but how they did after the old king's death is not known. End of chapter 5. The Black Thief and Knight of the Glen.